All right, 2022 quarter one market wrap for Newcastle and Lake Macquarie. Joined today by Jesse Wilton from PRD Real Estate. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, Matty. How are you?
Yeah, good. So, mate, let's kick it off. We want to dive into a few things today.
Yep.
First and foremost, obviously the market is shifting. We're seeing a few things, from the buy side, and I think the same could be said about the sell side, but very, very different to what the media is the headlines are saying at the moment.
Yeah,
for sure.
Probably the main thing that's driving indecision at the moment is the media. There's still some great prices that are getting held up at the moment. What we always see is when there's ever an event happening in the marketplace, whether it be an election, interest rates rise, a little bit of negative, buyers can anchor themselves to, and that's when the opportunities are made. So we're seeing some great sales basically happen, the Stephen Bradbury kind of effect, where buyers are holding back and other buyers are swooping in.
Yeah, no, completely understand. I mean, we're seeing it at the moment as well as the buyers that have a need to buy or have a strong desire to buy are actually picking up. They're not paying overs like they were last year. They're just getting into the market and paying what they need to pay to get in.
Well, you hit the nail on the head there. Like, motivation does drive those decisions, and you've got to think a lot of these owners that are on the market right now in that second and third tier of the market, that $1.5 to $3 million, they're on the market probably because they've bought something, so their motivation's high. And the ones that are entering that market, either upsizing or downsizing, so there's real action there to make opportunities.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. So, mate, we talked off camera about a bit of data that you've brought today, and I think the best thing we could do is explain what's happened in this quarter, 2022, and explain, comparatively what it was like in 2021 and how that's feeding into, into buyer sentiment.
100%. So our main market that I serve is that Wickham all the way through to Newcastle East and along the coastline, the apartment market. So as a whole last year, there was 92 sales in that first quarter of 2021. Surprisingly, the same amount of sales volume.
Exactly the same.
Exactly the same. What's probably been the indicator that set the two markets apart is median price. So last year the median price was circa $600,000 for the apartment market. Now we're in the early 800s. So a 25% rise in 12 months across apartment markets. Days on market industry was around that 60 days on market last year. PRDs was around that 28-day mark. That's probably a key contributor. We do a lot of auctions still in the apartment market, but that's basically the numbers that we've collated for our report today.
Yeah, and I think the key thing to be aware of there is, supply and demand is what drives markets, right? So
100%.
If you're seeing, the median house price, is what it is, it's obviously changed over that time. Days on market is going to be a huge indicator there, and I mean, maybe talk a little bit about to what's happened for you guys days on market this quarter, because we're kind of coming through this shift where, really hot at the end of last year, and now this year, at least the media is telling us that things are cooling down.
So I think what the importance between the agents that were on the table last year for vendor choices compared to the agents this year, last year the market was taking a lot of slack, like picking up that slack, and you could just put a property on the market and the market would do the talking. Right now, you got to, when your agent's selecting, is choosing that agent that has such a large database of buyers from past campaign sales that can tap into before it even goes on the market. And this isn't about doing these off-market or pre-market sales. It's about getting good quality data on price where that property stands before you launch it to the greater marketplace. Like, we still like to give it that full spectrum approach when we put it on the market, but when we get our pre-market buyers through, we'll be able to give our owners detailed information on where that property stands.
Yeah, you never sell anything to us off.
No. We definitely showcase, and showcasing is part of getting everyone equal chance to do due diligence. So off market, we give buyers an opportunity to put their case forward, but we still feel like it might need some time to brief. And like, we've had cases where we have had buyers agents make early offers pre-market, and so our owner just needs a bit more time. Let's show up for 7-10 days. Keep warm on it, and we do a deal. Like, we've done one in Collette Street. We've done that sale 15 days later. Yeah. So,
and the reality is, like, this is what we speak to our clients about all the time. there's more than just a price
Yeah.
that pulls a deal together. And there's on our side, there's a buyer that you're working with that needs their
100%.
questions answered, and the same on the vendor's side.
So there's a thing that we work on, and it's called time in the market as well. So some buyers might have been in the market for 6 months, some might have only been in 2 weeks. They've got to be treated differently. It's the same of owners. Some owners, they've been in the property for 12 months and they've already got their capital growth that should have been there for 5 years, and some people have been there for 30 years. So they're going to need more data to make an information. So that's why we're now basically doing those weekly written reports back to our owners, who the buyers are, why they're engaging with this property and why they're not engaging with it, so they can make an informed decision.
Yeah, and that's critical, that, having enough information to make a decision. It's critical. Mate, there was something else we were talking about off camera, which was a bit of interesting data in Merewether.
Merewether, yeah. So Merewether's probably one of those Newcastle's most resilient market patches. Everyone's driving to get in there, but right now we're seeing up to 50% of supply not there. So there's around 60 sales in the market Q1 last year, and they're looking around 35 to 40 sales happening in the first quarter this year. So buyers screaming to get in there. There's been a 50% growth rise, but no buyers properties to buy. So what that will force pressure on is to those outer ring suburbs. So when buyers can't get their desired home in the inner circle, they'll then look at those 2303, Hamilton South, Hamilton East kind of locations to get into the market, because we talked about it just then. Time in the market. They're not going to wait.
Buyer fatigue.
Buyer fatigue, they won't wait. So, that's why you're still seeing like $2 million sales in the Hamilton South, Hamilton East areas, because there's nothing to buy inner. The buyers have got the budget, but they're not waiting.
Yeah. Well, mate, one last thing we'll wrap up with is, if you were speaking with a buyer who has a bit of a few reservations in potentially what they're reading into in the media at the moment, and from your perspective, being actually at the coalface, with your vendors and experiencing buyers day to day, what would your advice be?
Well, my advice is to seek advice, basically. So if you're reading one thing but you want clarification on another, you go to those experts. So with the buyer's agency, or just an agent friend in total, they're going to give you access to what's really happening. Speak to your chosen agent. If you need a buyer's agent to give you more advice, seek their services. Like it's a no-brainer. Like we bought 2 properties through a buyer's agency in the last 2 years for access to making sure we were buying it at the right price. Yeah. So I'm an advocate there, and we bought them both off agents, one privately and one off an agent. So, yeah.
Well, mate, I'll slip you $50 later after that. Well, there we have it, the first quarter market wrap for 2022. Jesse, thanks for coming on today, mate.
Thank
Cheers.
you.